This is AMI Audiobook Review. I'm your host, Jacob Shymansky. And today we're bringing back on AMI colleague and good friend of the show, Karen Magee, for Rapid Fire Review. Karen, how's it going? It was so much fun last time.
I can talk books all day. I think we've established that.
I know you could. That's why we actually don't bring you back on that often, because you'd just be a regular guest on this show, and I don't want to share the spotlight too much.
Aw, I'm just a fill-in when you need me. I'm here when you need me.
You're the best feeling we can ask for. And you also have really good taste in books. For the people who don't know, Rapid Fire Review is a segment where Karen brings us, anybody brings us 5 books that she's read recently, 5 notable reads. For each one, she gets 15 seconds. What we'll do, we'll go one by one, and I will read the title and the author, and then you're going to hear a ticking sound effect. And then, Karen, you have 15 seconds to give us a description and review of that book within that 15 seconds. We do that 5 times, once for each book, and then afterwards we'll do a deeper dive on everything. The idea is that you get super fast recommendations from somebody with really good taste in books. Sound good?
I got this. I can do this.
So the first title is Don't You Cry by Mary Kubica.
It was not as good as her other books, and I've enjoyed all her other books. This book went around and around in circles. None of the characters were likable, and quite frankly, the ending made me mad. The connections didn't make sense, or maybe I missed something, but definitely would not recommend this from her books, and which is sad because I usually like her.
Okay, so that was an anti-recommendation.
Anti-recommendation.
That's fine. You have another Mary Kubica book coming up later, so I'm curious to see what you're going to have to say about that one.
We'll get to it soon.
We'll get to it soon. So that was Don't You Cry by Mary Kubica. The next one is How to Save a Life by Lynette Rice.
So this is behind the scenes of Grey's Anatomy. Lynette worked for Entertainment Weekly for many years and had a great access to the actors and crew. She even gets into the scandal, air quotes, of Patrick Dempsey leaving the show. She was one of the first people and only people, I think, to interview him after it became public. If you like this show, you have to read this book.
Okay, now do a book like that, but for Breaking Bad, and I'm going to read it.
That'd be really good too. Oh.
So that was How to Save a Life by Lynette Rice. The next one is Every Last List by Mary Kubica.
This was so much better, and I'm glad I didn't give up on her as an author. It was a good but sad story, and I liked how all the pieces tied together. Her writing is usually very descriptive of the surroundings and the characters. Her chapters go back and forth with different perspectives, and this one was so well done.
Okay, that was Every Last List by Mary Kubica, not Rubica. The next one is Orbital by Samantha Harvey.
Speaking of descriptive books, this one is so descriptive. It's more like a novella than a novel. It's pretty short. This won the Booker Prize and is probably one of the most descriptive books I've ever read. It takes place in one day in the space station. Nothing really dramatic happens, but it was so detailed I had to look up. Oh, dang it. So close.
We'll talk more about it. Don't worry about it.
I was so
Absolute
close.
banger of a book, though. That's Orbital by Samantha Harvey. Then the last one on your list is The Friday Afternoon Club by Griffin Dunne.
So I saved the book for last. Griffin is an actor who you might know as Uncle Nicky on This Is Us. This book is about his life, which is both amazing. He grew up around Hollywood royalty and tragic. His sister, who was murdered by her boyfriend, was actually an actress, played the older sister on Poltergeist. I couldn't put it down, read it way past my bedtime.
You are too good at this. That last book was The Friday Afternoon Club by Griffin Dunne.
So good. So good.
Do you want to start there for the elaboration section?
Well, yeah.
Okay, let's talk about this last one here.
You have the order that I read them in, so this one's freshest in my mind.
Okay, The Friday Afternoon Club?
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, who's this book for? Who would enjoy this book?
It was a #1 New York Times bestseller list, and it was written in such that even if you didn't care about Hollywood or anything, it's fascinating. His best friend was Carrie Fisher since they were teenagers.
Oh, wow.
His parents used to have these house parties that had names of celebrities that blew my mind, and he would just casually mention them. But then it gets into his parents. I don't want to spoil it. You can look up on the internet what happened, but his parents got divorced. His sister, like I said, was murdered by her ex-boyfriend, and
Jeez.
back in I think it was in the 80s. I vaguely remember because she played the older sister on Poltergeist, the original Poltergeist, and just what their family went through and what the court system was like back then. There was a lot of victim shaming. So it was a really good book that just kept me so interested in him. And he's a very prolific writer. I think he's in his 70s now. He's still acting. He was in Succession. He's done producing, but just a book about family and a book about family overcoming a really like a significant tragedy in their life. Because I can't imagine. Like, can you imagine? Like murdered
Any
by an
book-
ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, I mean, we all have complicated relationships with our exes, but
That's a
not
little
to that
extreme.
extent.
This guy was a jerk. And then the defense, and sorry, then
And a
the
murderer.
then the defense attorney was worse. And the judge in the case was worse. So, okay, it really made me angry. And like I said, I stayed up way past my bedtime reading it because I couldn't put it down.
Any work of nonfiction, you kind of have to take into account like who this person is, why they're writing it, like in the context that they're writing it in, because it's obviously a very, it comes from a singular perspective. That doesn't mean that it can't be an amazing read, like flaws and all. Did you feel like this one was fair, or a term I often use is personal propaganda? Like, I know it sounds harsh, but I'm very critical of memoirs like this.
I think it was very fair, and I usually kind of look at them as 2 cents worth. He laid out a lot of the good, the bad, and the ugly. His brother had a lot of mental health issues. His mom had MS. His dad was closeted gay and came out after they got divorced. And like, this sounds like a movie that I'm talking about, but it was his life. And he talked about like the brother, his uncle, and his dad would have these big fights and not talk for years. and just it was like crazy. Like, you think about this kids growing up in Hollywood and having this charmed life, but it's not. The stories he told about Carrie Fisher, as you know, I loved Carrie Fisher, rest in peace. They'd been friends since before she was in Star Wars.
Wow.
And I should mention the writing is very good because his father and uncle and aunt were all writers. So he came by the talent. It was a very well written, like very easy flowing reading. His dad actually went from Hollywood to write a lot of articles for Vanity Fair about crime. So it's really interesting.
Griffin Dunne, this might be a stupid question, but what is he most well known for? Is he mostly a writer or an actor? What's
he does a little bit of everything. Writing. Every interview I'd seen since he wrote this book, and this book came out, I think, last year. Even when he's not out promoting it, someone brings up this book. It is such a good book. He starred in the American Werewolf in London, which is an old movie you might know. He was Nicky in This Is Us, Uncle Nicky in This Is Us for the last 3 seasons. That's how I recognized him at first, and then I went back going, oh, he's one of those actors. It's like, oh, I know that guy.
Okay, I think that's enough for this book. That was The Friday Afternoon Club by Griffin Dunne. I want to talk about Mary Kubica because you have 2 books here. Do you want to start with the one you didn't find too hot? Don't You Cry?
Oh, this one I struggled to get through. She's very descriptive in her writing, and she does each chapter from a different person's point of view. So it's first person each chapter, but a different character. And I could not figure out for the life of me the connection between them. And I don't want to give it away just in case somebody goes in. But it starts off with this woman whose roommate goes missing. And she's trying to find what happened to her roommate. And you hear from the other chapters, somebody's watching this woman walking into the water and walking back out. And you can't figure out if that's that girl that's missing or if it's even in the same timeline. So it was really confusing, and I don't know if I don't know if I just missed something, but the ending, I'm like, this does not make sense how they all tied everybody together. I don't get it.
I think what sometimes happens, and this is a bit of speculation, if you're an author listening to this, maybe you can help me clarify this for me. Sometimes I feel like authors are terrified of hand-holding, and so they kind of retract information and leave it to the reader to try to fill in the blanks. Like they could have started those chapters with like a timeline, this is happening in 2003. And then that way you can tell that's happening around the same time. But there was a decision to not do that. And then it opens up that confusion where you're like, are these two storylines happening in the same timeline? Because it's one thing to not understand the connection, but then to have to wonder about, are they even in the same timeline? And you have no way of knowing. That type of confusion can really put you off a book.
And it's funny because her books, I've read a lot of her books because I usually tend to like her. They go back and forth. They use that same trope. Like each chapter is from somebody's different point of view. There's like 2 or 3 main characters that the chapters kind of flip between. And none of them had made me like this angry at the end, going like, you are pulling straws. And I'm not sure if this was a later book she'd written, because sometimes authors, when they use the same style all the time, they find it harder and harder and harder to keep writing in that style, and the pieces just don't come together as well at the end. But this one just made me angry.
No redeeming qualities at all?
Actually, I'm going to say I thought at the beginning I liked the main female protagonist, like the roommate that was looking for her missing roommate. But even she started to get on my nerves.
All right, so that's Don't You Cry by Mary Kubica. What about this other one, Every Last List?
So I gave you the books, the order that I read them in. I just went back and looked at my Libby, like the last 5 books. So I stuck with this author because I enjoyed her other books, and I'm glad I did. This one actually had me in tears while I was reading it.
Wow.
I give it away in the first. I always never know how much to give away in these because I don't want to spoil anything. But in the first chapter, the husband dies. And you know when you're hearing his voice, you know that it's a past event. So that she'd set up that we knew, when you hear his voice, obviously, he died early on. So, and then the stories around him passing, like how did he, like what actually happened? There's like postpartum depression comes into this a little bit. The woman's mother has Alzheimer's, so there's that. So when she writes a book, there's always like a little bit of tragedy around stuff, but I really like this one. I like the way it was coming. It came together at the end, and I'm going to say it was a happy ending, all things considered, but it made me a lot happier than the other one.
What's her writing style like, Mary Kubica? Because you've read quite a bit of her, and sometimes you need to read a couple books from an author to realize like what their style is, because sometimes they'll switch up from one book to another, but there are some idiosyncrasies that carry from one book to another. How do you appreciate her writing?
So she describes things and situations in a way that I feel like I'm there. Like sometimes when you're reading a book, you feel like you're watching somebody, but the way she writes, like sometimes I feel like I'm not, that doesn't, but sometimes I feel like I'm standing with the protagonist. And it's not overly complicated description, but it's description that is talking about a road, and she describes a road in the way that you see that road in your mind. And you see the trees she's talking about. And she includes a lot of details without it being overly flowery, but you get these wonderful pictures. And that's what I like when I read a book. I want to feel like I'm there experiencing it with the people in the book.
Well, I think there's 2 things that lead to that feeling of like being there as opposed to being a watcher. And the first one is simple. It's just description, period. Some books are very much, this character does this, that character does that character says this, that character says that. And especially like dialogue heavy books, there's just no time to give descriptions of the setting, what people are wearing, how people are feeling. Is it cold? Is it hot? Is it humid? Are they indoors? Is it a clean house? Is it a dirty house? What's on the coffee table? Like, what does the street look like? Is it a dirt path? Is it a brick road?
Is the rug worn? I love a description of a rug in a house because that tells you so much. Is the rug worn? Are there? That sounds really silly, but you get it. Like, yes. Is the rug worn? Is the path worn from the front door to the kitchen? Like,
what kind of plants are they planting? Yeah. All the flowers dead inside. Does the rug have stains on it? Is the rug meticulously cleaned, or is it only clean in like the easy to reach places? That kind of tells you that the person who's cleaning it is lazy.
It tells you so much
surmise
about a
lot, right? Yeah, exactly. And like that kind of description, if that example of like only the easy to reach parts are clean, is a description of a carpet, but also tells you, it gives the reader opportunities to surmise things, right? To ask,
gives you a picture of the person and the place.
Yeah, exactly. And that applies to all description. If somebody describes, you meet a new character and their jacket's a little baggy, and there's rips in their jeans that they don't really care about. Like, what would that tell you about a character?
Oh, right away. Maybe they just lost weight if the jacket's a little baggy.
Oh yeah, there you go.
And or it's a hand me down. If it's a child, it's possibly a hand me down. There's so much, right? Like just it's the use of the words. And I know I talk a lot about Stephen King on this podcast, but he is one of my favorite authors. I still think of some of the descriptive things in books of his that I've only read once or twice. Like some of the sentences.
You can endlessly write description, but there's always a reason behind it, and that's to inform the reader on the characters and the places that the story is taking place. And you can go too far with it, but it's only too far if it's extraneous and unnecessary. That's where I draw the line. When it feels like there's nothing to glean for me as a reader, and it doesn't inform the story, the point, the themes of that book.
I love George R.R. Martin, but you just kind of summed up some of George R.R. Martin's pages in one sentence. Like, and I love his books,
yes.
But some of his pages, I'm like, this means nothing. This is just you writing for the sake of writing, and this is not helping me advance the story or the characters. I don't need this information.
I have 2 examples of exactly this type of writing from George R.R. Martin. Sometimes characters will go to a feast, and he will spend half a page, like 10 minutes, describing the food.
Yes.
And it sounds delicious, but so many descriptions of food. This guy loves food so much so that they actually published a Song of Ice and Fire cookbook of things based off of...
How have I not seen this?
Yeah, of foods in the books.
Hold on, I got to Google something. No, I'm just kidding.
So you can do that after, Karen. And then the other thing is, if there's like something happening in the throne room and court is in session, and there's the herald or whatever is like calling out all the knights in the room, he will literally write out the names of every single knight, like 30 of them. It's ridiculous. And
it's
does
like
this multiple
reading Genesis.
Times.
It's just a bunch of names. Genesis in the Bible is just a bunch of names.
Yeah, I guess the Song of Ice and Fire is kind of like the Bible.
It kind of is.
And like people who have watched the TV show Game of Thrones, they'll know like Daenerys. People know her as Khaleesi. She has a ridiculously long official title, Breaker of Chains, the Mother of Dragons. He writes that down, that entire introduction, like dozens of times.
Every single time it feels like. I mean, we know it's Daenerys. Just call her Dany. We all do.
Anyways, all that to say, the descriptions are well handled in Every Last List by Mary Kubica. Let's move on to this next one here. How to Save a Life by Lynette Rice.
You don't watch Grey's Anatomy, do you?
No.
That's okay. Actually, Grey's Anatomy didn't have a lot of description on it until recently, which is horrible. But Grey's Anatomy, so Lynette Rice, this book is written in interview form. So it is written it almost looks like transcripts of the interviews she had with the people, because she wanted to make sure that we knew exactly what the people were saying and that she wasn't changing it. I can't remember what was it, season 11 that they killed off Derek Shepherd, Dr. McDreamy.
Spoiler alert.
Dr. McSteamy? Was he McSteamy? Anyway, yeah, spoiler alert. Yeah, okay. I can't remember which one was McSteamy and which one's McDreamy. So the book came out shortly after that, and she was one of the only people to talk to Patrick Dempsey after he was let go for HR reasons.
HR reasons.
HR
Wait,
reasons.
do you mean in the show or like outside the show?
In the show. He was let
in the
go.
show he was
So
okay.
How much I can sidetrack a little bit here. Nobody knew he was being killed off the show. Nobody knew. It was top secret until Newfoundland's in a different time zone, and they got to see the show early on NTV, the Newfoundland TV channel out there, and then it started spreading across the country. So the East Coast hadn't watched it yet because Newfoundland got to see it first.
Yeah.
And it like broke wide open. It was shocking. You kill off a lead person. And I saw a quote from Ellen Pompeo a little while ago about that time at talking about him leaving. She goes, "It's amazing what you can do on a show when you don't have a penis around." So I'm like, oh yeah, because the show's still around. Like it's been 10 years since they killed him off. Are they in 21st season? I can't remember what season they're in, but it's been on forever.
Yeah, they killed off a main character, but they didn't kill the show.
No, it made the show a little bit better, maybe.
Interesting. Keep things fresh. Still, that happened in season 11?
11. I think it was 11. I'd have to go back and fact check that, but that feels right.
So let me get this right. Like the format of this book, what do you mean it's interview based? Like she's interviewing more than one person,
So
right?
she
It's
interviews,
just presenting everything word for word, essentially transcripts.
like, yeah, Grey's Anatomy was a phenomenon. It still is. Like, it is a top ranked show. It's been on Netflix or whatever streamer it's on. It's brought it back up again. I know my friends' kids who weren't alive when it started have gone back to watch it from episode one. And this book basically talks about how the show came to be. And it talks to the creator, Shonda Rhimes. It talks to producers. It talks to editors. It talks to actors. And you hear them talk about a topic. The chapters are grouped like in topics. And then she just pulls quotes and like she does it like you're reading a script. So it has like the person's name. So like Shonda Rhimes, then what she said. Or then, the next person, I can't remember if Shonda was in it. I think she was. Ellen Pompeo and what Ellen said. And the stories come together by using people's quotes. So it's almost like reading a script. And each chapter is just on a different topic about the show. Talking about when the show got super big, talking about, killing off main characters. George O'Malley, rest in peace. Talking off dramatic exits. Katherine Heigl left the show very dramatically. Christina O, Canadian Christina O, left the show doors wide open if she ever wants to come back. So it just talked about the people and what their feelings were when things happened. So it was a different style of book. I enjoyed it. I like Grey's Anatomy, so it was an easy
Yeah, it sounds
sell.
like if you're a fan of Grey's Anatomy, this is like a must-read book. But
It's really
any
good.
type of any piece of media that becomes legendary, that becomes a phenomenon. It doesn't matter if it's a movie or TV show or an album, even like a play or something. The story of the creation of that piece of media or art kind of becomes legendary in and of itself. And there's stories to be told there, right? And this is why I feel like it's like a historical account of this legendary thing that was created by this group of people. And you just get to get firsthand accounts of the people who were really there. It's so cool.
It ties into my job too, right? Like I could have read this book on job time, maybe.
Right.
Like it ties into what I do. Like I look for content to put on our channel. How do they make great content?
So if you're a fan of Grey's Anatomy, you would be a very big fan of How to Save a Life by Lynette Rice. We have one more book we wanted to talk to you, and that's Orbital by Samantha Harvey.
So I know you read this book as well.
Yes.
And so you actually listened to it. And I'm glad you did because I'm curious. I found the book very descriptive and unable to read very fast. I wanted to soak in every word. I actually looked up to see if she'd gone to space because it was so detailed about what the experiences were and what Earth looked like from space. Like I said earlier, it won a Booker Prize. I enjoyed it for the description. I like space stuff though. So like having listened to it, what did you think? Did it bring space to you?
It's one of those books you definitely need to focus to because the description is quite dense. And even like her sentence structure is often a little strange, but it's also beautifully put together. And the way that it puts you in space is aggressive. You never forget that you're in space because the plot, there really isn't much of a plot. It basically just follows the 6 astronauts on the International Space Station, fictionalized obviously, and they basically just philosophize on life and humanity. And there's a lot of introspection and just rumination on like humanity's place in the world, and a lot of description of the beauty of the Earth from the vantage point of the International Space Station. It sounds dull. The descriptions are
stunning,
gorgeous, unbelievable. This book is all description. So if you're not a description heavy person, you're not into that, I don't think this book is for you. But if you want to be moved by a book by pure description that'll actually make you feel small, this is it.
Yes. Oh, that's such a good way to describe it. Like the typhoon, like talking about the typhoon.
Oh yeah.
And like just you could picture the shape of it and just the edge of it, and it just. But there's no real plot. Like it's just a day in the. It's actually a day in the life of of the space station. There's 16 chapters. You do 16 rotations of the Earth in one 24-hour Earth day. So each chapter, I think, was a different hour in the space station, just as they sort of sped through space and time, literally. But it was harder to read than I expected because it is very short. And I thought I'm going to be able to fly through this in like a day. It took me 2 or 3 days. It is not a fast read for a short book.
There's a condition, or I guess it's an effect. It's called the overlook effect. And it's something that astronauts get when they go to space and they see Earth from outer orbit. And it changes their perspective on life. It's like a philosophical epiphany that everything clicks into place. Like, wow, we really are just a speck of wet dust floating in the nothingness of Earth, of the universe. And there are no borders from outer space. You can't really see them. And you realize the interconnectedness of humanity and that all these borders, all these politics that we've imposed on ourselves are fabricated and tiny and ultimately completely unimportant in the grand scheme of things. This book is the overlook effect, the book.
You just gave me goosebumps.
They should pay me for writing the synopsis for this book.
Don't leave us, but yeah, you could have a side job on that. Very well done.
Fantastic book. That's Orbital by Samantha Harvey. And that was Karen Magee with a rapid fire review. Not that rapid at the end of the day. Still about half an hour. Karen, thank you so much. It's always so fun to have you on the show.
I love it. I look forward to it. And next time you ask, I'll have a bunch more books to talk about. I promise.
Okay, we'll do it soon. Have a good one.
Thanks.
Karen Magee, she's our colleague and good friend at AMI. That's all the time we have for this edition of AMI Audio Book Review. We're going to leave all the books that we mentioned today in the description for the YouTube video as well as the podcast. The show airs on AMI Audio at 1 p.m. Eastern on weekends and repeats every 6 hours. But we also make ourselves easy to find. We're on all the big podcasting platforms, and that includes YouTube. You can subscribe to the channel and like the videos while you're there. You can email us at audiobookraview@ami.ca, and you can join us on Instagram at AMI Audiobook Review. And it's not just for plugging the next episode. We're posting reels of our best moments on the show as well as exclusive content. Thanks for tuning into AMI Audiobook Review. I'm your host, Jacob Szymanski. Have a good one.